All right, let's talk about something that quietly runs the show in our entire work life: emotional intelligence. EQ. It's kind of the secret sauce that makes some teams just absolutely thrive, while the lack of it can cause others to completely fall apart.
I mean, you felt it, right? You join a team and there's this amazing synergy. Everything just flows. And then there are other teams where it feels like you're constantly walking through mud. You might think it's all about skill or who has the most experience, but honestly, more often than not, it boils down to something way more human.
So how do you actually spot the problem? Well, this infographic we're looking at breaks it all down for us. It gives us 10 key warning signs of low emotional intelligence. Think of it as a field guide for navigating your workplace, for understanding those hidden currents that really determine if a team is going to sink or swim.
Okay, first up, we've got to look inward. Because here's the thing. Before emotional intelligence ever shows up in a conversation or a team meeting, it all starts with the relationship you have with yourself. This is the bedrock. Everything else is built right on top of it. And this is so crucial. If you don't have a clear picture of your own emotions, what triggers you, and most importantly, how your behavior actually lands with other people, well, it's pretty much impossible to make any real improvements. It all begins right here, inside.
So the very first sign is this massive blind spot. It's when someone just doesn't see the ripple effect of their words or their actions. They might think they're just being brutally honest, but to the rest of the team, it just feels brutal. And what happens? People clam up. They stop offering those cool, creative ideas because they're afraid of getting shot down. And boom, innovation just grinds to a halt.
And that leads us straight into sign number 2, poor emotional regulation. This is when someone's internal feelings just spill out all over the place, totally unchecked. It could be angry outbursts, could be dramatic mood swings. Either way, it creates this super unstable atmosphere. Everybody feels like they have to walk on eggshells. And that's not just uncomfortable, It leads directly to burnout and high turnover, because your best people, they're going to leave for a place that feels safer.
Okay, so let's see how these internal issues start to move outward. Once that personal foundation is shaky, it's pretty much inevitable that a gap forms in how we connect with other people. These are the signs you'll start to notice in your one-on-one interactions.
You can totally see the chain reaction, right? A lack of self-awareness leads to poor emotional management, which then makes it incredibly hard to build genuine, respectful relationships with your colleagues. The internal problem just becomes this huge interpersonal one.
A massive red flag for low EQ is a lack of empathy. And look, this isn't about being a mind reader. It's just about being willing to even try to see things from another person's perspective. When that empathy is missing, people feel misunderstood, they feel devalued, and the impact on the business is so real. People disengage, productivity tanks, and projects just stall out.
Now, what's so interesting about this sign is just how common it is. I mean, poor listening isn't just about being silent. It's about not truly hearing what's being said. When you're constantly interrupting or just waiting for your turn to talk, you're sending a really clear message. What I have to say is way more important than what you're saying. It's not just rude, it's how critical mistakes happen and how hours get wasted on rework because someone missed a key detail. And that brings us to the big picture, the ripple effect. This is where all these individual behaviors start to mix together and really damage the health and the performance of the entire team. It's really the culmination of all the signs we've talked about so far. This slide shows two sides of the exact same toxic coin. On one side, you've got people who are constantly blaming others, never ever taking accountability. And on the other, you have people who just get super defensive at the first hint of constructive feedback. Both of these behaviors completely shut down any chance for growth, for the person or the team. It creates this stagnant culture where mistakes get hidden instead of being learned from.
And these last few signs, man, this is what ultimately shatters a team's potential. It all starts with having trouble just maintaining professional relationships, which, makes sense if you have low empathy and you're a bad listener. This then breeds a resistance to change, right? Because nobody's going to follow a new plan if they don't trust the people leading the charge. And when trust is broken, you get the inevitable result. Teamwork becomes totally ineffective, collaboration is basically impossible. This creates a culture where nobody gets praised, successes aren't celebrated, and that just kills motivation and drives your best people right out the door.
So there you have it, 10 different signs, but they all trace back to the exact same root cause, a fundamental breakdown in human connection. When emotional intelligence is low, we just lose the ability to connect, first with ourselves and then with each other.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. It's really easy to look at a list like this and start pointing fingers.
thinking, oh yeah, that's totally my coworker. But the real challenge, and honestly where all the real growth happens, is turning that lens around on ourselves and asking, with total honesty, which of these signs, maybe even in a small way, do I see in myself?